Hi, my name is Reverend Dal Brown, and it is just a privilege to be here with you on this podcast today. I have been doing this for a while. I started off doing it by myself so I could sort of learn what it was like and things, and now we've changed the format, Ted, to have guests. Now, we've had a couple guests, but we have the best guest of all today, because she happens to be in the same room with me. And so I have to say good things about Emily. Emily is one of our wonderful members, along with her husband Scott and her 3 children. And we are here today to talk about the importance of being a mother and what the joys and the trials and struggles of being a mother are, and to talk about how this church, how Emily is one of our leaders in this, wants to serve and help young families and young women, mothers, grow and have a deep faith in Jesus Christ. Now, my goal, Emily, at this church, among other things, has been to do 2 things. One is to create a setting in which laity can talk about their faith, and 2, a setting in which children are always welcome. So you're going to hear some voices from over there, and that is Miss Arlene, who is Ted's spouse. And Arlene, we're glad you're here today with us. And you're going to hear Emily's kids. So I think it's great to hear those voices in addition to the 2 of us. And Ted, thank you for taping as well. This is our team for the day. So Emily, welcome.
Hello.
You are a mom of 3 elementary school and preschool kids.
Yep.
And you're also one of our leading persons in terms of women's Bible studies. You've done lots of devotions and things. Thank you for being here this day. And tell people what they need to know a little bit about you. I mean, I know you grew up in Princess Anne. Mm-hmm. Dad had an electrical company. I know that your brother is a law enforcement officer in Wicomico County. But what should people know about you?
Awesome. Well, Pastor Dale, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, that is a good, quick overview. I grew up initially in Princess Anne, Maryland. My dad does have an electrical controls company down there called Shorey Controls, and my mom was a special education teacher for 30 plus years. And yep, I have 2 brothers. Okay. One is a sheriff's deputy, and the other is in the Army Reserves and has a job with military intelligence. So not 100% what he does every day, but
and
he
we're
does
not
something. Yeah. So yep, I lived in Salisbury for a while, went to McDaniel College, met my husband Scott, and then we were all over the place for a while for his training to be a physician.
And Scott is an orthopedic surgeon.
Yep, he's an orthopedic surgeon. So you have medical school, then you have residency, and it's a lot of moves, but we did it, and now we're back here on the shore, and we really couldn't be happier.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I, as your pastor, and this church is thrilled that both you and Scott and your kids are back. So welcome.
Yep.
Now, we're going to talk about mothering today, and your kids are elementary school and below, and my son will be 31 this year, so we're at different stages in life, and I think those stages for mothers and dads bring different joys and trials. What is the greatest joy that you have in being a mom?
I love that question. Overall, I love being a mom. So when we had Lily, we were living in Akron, Ohio, and we were very far away from family, and my husband was working a lot. So it was a true calling for me to decide to stay home. I tried to go back to work for about 6 months, and my heart wasn't in it anymore. So I decided to stay home, and I had our first girl, and then we had our 2 boys shortly thereafter. And I have to say, my biggest joy has been 2 things. Watching them interact with each other. So they're all similar ages, and they snuggle, they watch out for each other, and they argue too, which is kind of fun to watch in some ways. But, when they're in a situation where they're unsure, they gravitate towards each other, and that's my greatest joy, is watching them be there for each other and watching them watch out for each other.
So we just had this conversation before we started taping, and the two boys said that their sister was in charge. Mm-hmm. And so I can see that as your kids interact, mm-hmm. and I can also see the fact that they really do love each other. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing to see. And I'm sure that you and Scott have set that pattern for
mm-hmm.
them. So watching them interact. Mm-hmm. So what other joys do you, what are the other things that excite you about being a mom?
So I also really like all the physical stuff. So I have loved watching them. Watching them learn how to walk was fun, but I really enjoyed like the bike ride, learning how to ride their bikes and learning how to swim. So I love to swim, and watching them make all the baby steps to get there, and then the joy that they have when it all clicks, when they're riding the bike clicks and they're confident in doing it themselves, when they can jump in the water and pop up and swim to the side. It's just been super fun. Because you see the joy in them, and it's uplifting as a parent too, because it's a concrete thing that you help them do, so it kind of gives you that pat on the back that you need sometimes as a parent, like, wow, like we worked on riding the bike, we worked on swimming, and now they can do it. So it's a very concrete thing of, we worked on it and now they can do it. So it's also a confidence booster as a parent.
I remember learning to ride a bike, and I learned to ride very quickly. I didn't learn to stop.
Yeah.
Nearly as well. I ran into lots of things, and I'm sure yours never did that. So you brought up another topic, and I think it's very interesting, and that's some mothers are able and can choose to stay at home, and some can't. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad or wrong. It's just what works in your family. What would you say to a mom who can't stay home and be with her child, who wants to be, and who, working moms are great moms. It's just a different situation for them. So what would you say to them?
Oh, I 100% agree. It's been a blessing that I've been able to stay home. But my sister-in-laws, they're working moms. My dearest friends are working moms, and they're phenomenal. And I think that the biggest thought I have is that no matter what, we all love our children, and all of our actions are coming out of love. So if you're a working mother, you're doing it because you love your child, and that's what has to be done. So you do it. As a mom, what has to be done, you do it. And I don't think that I do a better job or a worse job. It's just different. Our schedule and our daily life is different, and that's okay.
As a man, I think society unfairly puts expectations upon women that you have to be this or do that if you're going to be a faithful or a good mom or a good person, and that's very unfair. I think it really is. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I'm in awe of the working mothers. I struggle to get everything done, and they're working 8 to 10 hours a day and still getting everything done. So I'm really in awe of them.
And it's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
Being a mom is physically tiring because there's, so many things, so many tasks and joys. But there's also work and family and things. It's a constant drain. So we support and affirm mothers that work and also moms that stay at home. It is their families, their personal choice. And each situation is different. Okay, so I ask you what the greatest joy is. What is your greatest struggle in being a mom?
For me, it's patience. Every day I wake up and I say, I'm not going to yell today. Because the theory now as a parent is you shouldn't have to raise your voice. You should be able to speak to your child, and they'll do what you need them to do. And, yelling doesn't really work. There's a lot of books that say this is the cure for yelling as a parent. Well, I'm a bit of a yeller still, and I struggle with that. I struggle with my patience. So every morning I wake up and I say, okay, I'm going to stay calm, and I'm going to try to keep the yelling to a minimum, and I'm going to have patience. And, some days are better than others. And I just tell myself that's okay too, because as a mom, I have faults, and I just try to do the best I can. But the most frustrating part is when you're constantly needed, especially when you have multiple children. They'll ask for a snack 1,000 times a day. They'll ask for a snuggle 1,000 times a day. And in the midst of you trying to get everything else done. So you kind of almost feel, this is maybe a very negative expression, but you feel like you're being pecked to death sometimes. And that it's nothing ever really big with the kids. It's all these little like, I need this, or all breaking up all the little fights. So it's all the little tiny stuff that adds up and can bubble up sometimes and be a source of frustration.
So it's not one great big thing.
Nope, it's not
a lot. It's a lot of little things.
It's a lot of little things.
And I'm sure that your children never fight.
Oh, they do all the time.
Because I believe your children are perfect.
Oh.
And things. So help me understand also, how do you and Scott work together to parent your children?
Oh boy, that is 100% communication.
Okay.
So we, I think I've said it before in a previous devotional. Our main goal as parents is to raise kids that other people want to be around.
Okay, that's a great goal.
And that's kind of our motto. We want our kids to walk into a situation and interact with children and parents, and that person walks away from our kids saying, "Oh, that's a good, happy kid." And so that's our goal, and so we try to make decisions based off of that. So we will say, we try to limit all the fun stuff so we can keep them humble and say, like, we did something fun yesterday, so today is going to be kind of a restful day, or and that's just Scott and I communicating kind of, if it's a weekend and we're going to be around, we talk about the day in the beginning of the day and say, I think the kids need some time apart, so you take the kids to the playground and I'll take the our daughter to the grocery store, things like that. We just work it out. We just talk in the beginning of the day, and then in the evenings, we kind of have our routine. He comes home from work, we have dinner, and then he has fun.
He has a lot of hours.
Yep, he has a lot of hours, but he's usually home, like, at dinner or after dinner.
Okay.
And then, so usually while I'm doing some cleaning around the house, he has dad fun time, where he takes him for a bike ride, a walk, plays Monster, does other fun stuff. And, it's a short amount of time, but it's really impactment. The kids
So
really
I know
look
your
forward to
husband
it.
well, and I just can't imagine Scott playing Monster.
Oh,
but
it's a good Monster.
Okay, I want to see this side of him.
It's also really fun as a parent to scare your kids. So he'll play hide and seek and then pop out and give them a good scare. And he likes
hide and
that.
seek sounds better than playing Monster. So there you go. So what role does your faith and does your belief in Christ play in how you parent your children?
I love that question too, because for me personally, it's been I would say the best part of my kids is it's brought me closer to God. You get, as a parent, you get to see the world through your kids' eyes, and they start to ask questions, and that's really been a wonderful thing for me. They ask questions. I take some time to read the Bible, learn about it, see what the Bible says about that, and we have a conversation. And all those conversations has brought me closer to God. It's brought the kids closer to God. And, I truly believe that raising, if you want to say Christian kids or cross-form kids, it is really a miracle, and it takes effort, and you practice it as a family. And
so you're intentional about it.
Yeah, we're very intentional about it.
So what are some? Do you set goals? How do you go about doing this?
The kids kind of lead it themselves. So we do. I grew up going to church. We've always gone to church, and that was kind of where I stopped.
You grew up going to the Catholic church.
Yep, grew up going to the Catholic church. Love the Catholic church. It's beautiful. But we, just found Community Church of Ocean Pines, and it's working for our family right now. And so, on a daily basis, we do, going to church on Sundays. Make a point to make that a priority. We try not to miss Sundays. Then we do, basic prayers before bedtimes. We do the prayers before our meals. And then we have a storybook Bible now that I have a 7-year-old. She's reading, so we'll read a children's Bible story, and then we take it from there. They usually have a question or two, and we go down that path. And it's usually throughout the week just a series of small conversations that we have. A lot of good conversations we'll have in the car. And, the basis is just that God loves you. God created this beautiful earth and the people in it, and it's something to be treasured, and that no matter what happens in your life, if you get frustrated, God's going to be there with you and by your side. And so we just kind of want to give them the tools to grow with, and hopefully as they grow into adults, they use the tools that Scott and I have provided for them.
Now, you said something I think very interesting, and that is with children enjoying the beauty of creation. Because God's creation is absolutely gorgeous, and there's so many ways in which you can talk about the presence of a creator. And you know, for my son, for Zach, the peacock was his favorite thing in the world. And so we would go to Salisbury Zoo, and we would go and listen and watch the peacocks. And we would want to see all the other animals, like the spectacled bear, and we want to see, you used to have a jaguar there. I mean, you grew up here, so you know what I mean. We never got anywhere past the peacock. Once the peacock put its plumage out, that's what we saw. And for Zach, that was the most beautiful thing in all of creation. But it's, you know, that is something that you both as parents and children can share. And certainly we're blessed in this area with a lot of natural, wonderful
I think you're
beauty.
right. It's and with the creation, the peacocks and you know, being close to the beach, the kids love it. That's a concrete example of God's creation that we're using and that we love. And so, for example, when we do pray at night, if we've been to the beach, we'll say things like, thank the Lord for my arms and legs that I was able to swim today in his beautiful ocean, and kind of connecting what we're doing on a daily basis, like you said, to God, and having a grateful heart for it.
It's appropriate. And I think gratitude is one of those realities that's very important for all of us, adults and children. So I just want to stop for a moment and say to you, you're probably hearing voices in the background, and no, you're not hearing things. That is Emily's 3 children. That are Emily's 3 children. And we want them here because we want to be a church where children are valued and important. So please don't turn off. Please don't walk away. Please don't think you have a bad signal. They're having fun, and they're building stuff, and now they're pulling on each other's shoes. So it's okay. So Emily, let's talk for just a minute about a little bit of a different topic. What connection is there for you being a woman and your spirituality and your trust and faith in God? What are things that maybe you need or want and are important to you in that sense?
That's a good question. So I'll answer it this way. You know, we get really busy in life, right? And everybody, I think that's pretty universal.
Sure.
You get busy with the daily life, and you get busy with your feelings too. You worry about friends, you worry about family, and I think it's really easy once you're feeling overwhelmed about, you know, worrying about a situation or loved ones, or worrying about being overwhelmed by your to-do list, that you start to feel scattered, and you start to lose focus. And so what I try to do is to keep my focus on Jesus and God. So all my actions, if I'm starting to feel that anxiety, I try to take a step back and say, you know, what's really important here? And am I acting out of a point of faith? Am I acting how God wants me to act? And I do believe that it's true. If you have that mantra in life, if everything's springing from God, it's gonna spring up good. If that makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense to me. So what you're saying about is that you have intentionality. God is your foundation, even if you don't have perfection.
Correct. And you know, and I think that's your faith. It's kind of you'll probably be able to recite the story better than me, but I listened to a podcast recently about Martha and Mary, when I think it was Mary that was choosing to sit at the feet of Jesus and listening to everything he said, and Martha was busy in the kitchen doing all the other things. And I think that's a really cool story as a woman in the Bible, because I can totally get it. You know, Martha's thinking, we have this great visitor, so I have to get the dinner ready, and I have to get the house ready. I need to serve him. And Mary's choosing the other path of sitting and listening to Jesus. And Jesus kind of says, Martha, it's great that you want to do that, but you're missing the point. You're missing the important stuff. And I think that's what I try to tell myself is when all the other stuff is worrying me and there's a lot going on, I don't want to miss the important stuff. I don't want to miss like sitting and listening to Jesus.
There is a difference between that which is urgent and that which is important. And there's a little book published called The Tyranny of the Urgent. Your kids are important. That's why we want them here, and that's why it's okay for them to make noise. They even make noise in church on occasion.
They do.
And that's okay too. But, the urgency is, when I was a little boy, I sat between two aunts, and they were to keep me quiet. They actually instigated more trouble than they did anything else and stuff. But the important thing is that children know that church is a good place for them. So I want to go back just a second to the story of Mary and Martha. Emily, it's always been my perspective that even though Jesus says something to Martha about choosing the better part, he doesn't say one's better than the other. He just simply says that maybe there are two sides of who we are. Because we do have responsibilities. I mean, school does start at a certain time. And your children have to be up and dressed at school at that time. But there are other times when you can just enjoy the presence of being there with them and such. And you have responsibilities as a wife and as a person, interest of your own. Balance seems to me to be a very important issue. So how do you balance? Sometimes better than others, I'm sure. But guys do the same thing. So,
I think you're right, trying to maintain that perspective of living in the moment, because it really is, life is now, life is this moment, life is the moment that we're living currently, and you have to maintain that balance because you can't control what happened yesterday and you can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. So you just have to enjoy this moment.
And you can't even control what's happening right now.
And it's so many times you're right. Okay, so we get out the door. I'm frustrated in the morning because I know we have to get to school on time, and I have 3 small children to get ready, and I'm doing all this stuff. And that's okay to be frustrated because you're going to be frustrated because they're going to push back on you. Someone's going to have to go to the bathroom the minute you're walking out the door or wants an outfit change. And that's okay, but I think all that stuff's going to happen, but I think what you can control is your heart over it. So, okay, yes, I am really frustrated right now. I want to yell at my children. But maybe then once they are on the bus or once everybody's in the car, you take even 1 minute to say a prayer together as a family. Or after the children dropped off, you take those couple minutes for yourself where you take a deep breath and you say, geez, Lord, that was tough, but thank you for my car, thank you for my knowledge that I was able to get these children out the door, and you focus on the next task that you have for the day.
Viktor Frankl, in a book called Man's Search for Meaning, says that the only thing that people cannot take away from us is our power to choose. And we can choose our response. Sometimes we do it really, really well. Sometimes we do it poorly. Sometimes, I had to get Zach to school on a regular basis. Sometimes it just went along smoothly. Sometimes if it didn't go smooth, I can still choose to be, hey, I'm not in a rush or hurry. Other times I'm like, get in the car, let's go, And I think all of us understand that happens to each one of us. But we can choose how we respond as well. And I think that your response is a great response. So thank you so much. And I want to follow up with this question. I have been a United Methodist pastor. I added it up today. Just 49% of my life. I almost half, and I was shooting for half, but we'll get there. So I love the church, and the church is important to me. So how can this church or any church be supportive of women and mothers and help them to grow their faith, see them as equals, treat them as valuable and important, and really honor them? How can a local church do that, in your thinking?
I think it's twofold. It's the church's responsibility to have an open mind about it, and it does take some effort on the women's part too. I was a part of a women's group in Middletown where we lived before, and then I came here, and there wasn't a specific one for mothers with children, and I thought I want that. So I reached out to you and said, can we do this? And you said, sure. And you opened a room for us. And I think that is the biggest, part of it is like when we have a thought, we have a brainstorm, we actually ask say, this is my goal, this is my vision. So you say it out loud to whatever church leader that is important, and then that church leader is going to support you. This church has been great. I think, I do have a fear of people leaving the church, in our generation. I think that we need to get back to the basics that this church offers. You offer a couple different mass times. You offer service times.
Your Catholic background is kind of shining through there, ma'am.
Services.
In United Methodist, we call them worship services. But Mass is fine. It's so great. It's all right.
So you offer multiple worship services, and you also offer the children's aspect. It is. I grew up in Catholic church, and I learned how to sit through a Mass quietly. But for my family, I wanted the kids to be able to participate and go off and learn something more at their level. And I think what the good thing is about churches is there's lots of different options out there. If you want something more formal for your kids, there's services that you can find that are more amenable to that. There are services that are more casual and laid back and more contemporary.
Absolutely.
So I think it's twofold. It's the church continuing to offer it, whichever church it is, and it's up to the families to make a commitment and do that. And as a mother to say, this is the tone that we're setting. Church on Sundays is important, so this is what we're going to do at the least. And you make a point to do that. And as a woman, it's all about reaching out. It's all about making connections and just asking women, hey, do you want to do this? And what I have found is I didn't know what to expect when I started the Moms Club, but everybody wants to do it. Everybody says, gosh, that's a great idea. I could really use that enrichment in my life. And so it's all about just getting the ball rolling. And women are usually very supportive of women, and I've had moms that really have made, even in their busy lives, make every effort to carve out time to come to Bible study, and that means a lot that they're making the time.
So that connection, that fellowship is important, because I'm going to make an assumption. You tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. My assumption is this. When you're home with your kids, or you're in your home, or you're working, doing your own stuff, the assumption that I would make is that you feel that these things that happen only to you. You're the only one with these kinds of problems. You're the only one whose children do X, Y, or Z. But the truth is, there's uniqueness, but there's also difference as well. And I mean, you and Scott have great kids. I mean, these are great kids. But I'm going to say that to every family that comes in the door of this church, because kids, I think, remind us of Christ and of Jesus in ways that maybe we as adults have gotten too sophisticated for. Just that great joy and the laughter and all the fun and things and the wonder and all things that maybe we as adults have lost a little bit. So I want to follow up with a thought too. One of the things that has impressed me about your group and yourself has been that women sometimes in churches are put in certain places and allowed only to do, there's limitations. One of the things I celebrate about United Methodism is, at least in our ideals, we believe that a woman can do any responsibility, any privilege, anything that a man can do. That we are equal in God's sight and equal in our abilities and intelligence and all of that. Some of the best clergy I have, Ted, in this conference, colleagues, are the women clergy. And they are outstanding, and they go up against some really hard things, particularly if they're the first woman pastor there. And I've made it a point in my career, Emily, to try to be very supportive of women clergy. Not that you're a woman clergy person, but you've taken on, your faith has grown. You've done some things that are risky. You are speaking on the devotional programs, and you're also speaking at the nursing home ministries, and you're very present. How has that happened for you? I mean, what is it? Is that your normal personality coming through, or is that maybe spiritual growth? Or help me understand how that happens for you.
Well, I do love that about the Methodist Church, that they are very empowering to women. I think it's really important, because I do think we have a strong voice and a strong perspective. And I would say the past year that we've been here, my spiritual growth has really been in part because you've asked me. I would have never done a devotional on the podcast unless you said, hey, Emily, I'd love to have a woman's perspective. And the same with Gall Creek. When you asked me to do Gall Creek, my first thought was, well, the older gentleman might not want to hear from a woman, and you squashed that really quickly. So I think
I didn't know I did that, but I'm glad I did.
You did. You said no. It's important to hear a woman's voice, and I think that your confidence in me is what pushed me to say, okay, he asked me to do it. I want to be a leader in this church, and also for my kids. I want my kids to see me actively involved in the church.
Absolutely.
And you said that the church had a need for it. So I said, okay, so I'm going to step up and try to fill that need. And it has filled my cup. I really have to say I've learned when you plan devotionals, it doesn't just happen. And when you plan a message for the nursing home, that doesn't just happen. You do have to take time. You have to read through what scripture you want to do. You have to think about how you want to present it to your audience. And all of that makes you grow. And for me, it's made me closer to God. And it's also given me more tools for when people ask me a question, I can be more knowledgeable when I answer it.
And you're an example to women here and to men here as a leader and as a person of faith. So thank you for doing all those good things. And your speaking at Gall Creek is great.
Thank you. I'm very nervous.
Tremendous. I'm nervous still when I preach, and I've been doing this for 28 years now. So I want to shift just a little bit one more time. This is our final shift. I want to talk about opportunities here for women to study the Bible and to grow spiritually. And I want to close with your group and what what you're planning for the fall and invite people to come. In United Methodism, women and men both access the means of grace through regular personal worship on a daily basis, which we might call devotions, and also through regular weekly worship, which we do on Sunday morning and special occasion. So women certainly can access that. And we try to be sensitive. I try to be sensitive in choosing illustrations and ideas that highlight both women and men in their faith as positive examples as well. We have a group called United Methodist Women in Faith. Now, and I don't think you go to that at this point in time, but that is what used to be called United Methodist Women. And Emily, I go back farther than that. That used to be called the WSCS, the Women's Society of Christian Service. And they meet monthly, and they have a Bible study before their meeting where they talk over modern questions, political discussions. How does the Bible relate to this issue, maybe immigration or sexism or racism or these things? So that's one opportunity for growth. And the United Methodist Women in Faith, I'm going to tell you right up front, is my favorite organization in the church because they're given to mission to women, children, and families. And all of those groups are really important to me. And they are the missional arm of the church. They were the best partners when I was doing disaster relief. So the United Methodist Women in Faith, and we have a group here, is very important. And if you want to join sometime, talking to everybody, not just yourself, certainly you can do that. We also have a Tuesday afternoon Bible study. And it's 14 or 15 women, and we meet in my office. And I will tell you that of all the things that happen during the week, that is one of those things that I most look forward to. Because we have fun, we laugh, and we support one another. And this group is so good that if I have to be away, you all just meet without me, which is really great because that you all assuming, the ladies of that group, assuming leadership. And we've done all kinds of studies, starting in the Tuesday after Labor Day. We're going to be studying the Lord's Prayer and the importance of prayer in the Christian life. 1 o'clock to 2:15 or whatever it is, and then once a month, on the third Thursday, it is Methodist Women's Day, so we start at 1:30.
Yep.
But if they wanted to join that, we would certainly encourage that. We're using a book written recently by Adam Hamilton. And I have to tell you, it's just a fun group. We have a blast.
Yep.
And you are a part of that one. Then also on Wednesday evenings, there is a gender mixed group, just an open Bible study that repeats the same curriculum. But these are some of those women who are moms that are working during the day, and some are persons who are retired, and some are men that are working or retired, and this is the most accessible time for them and things. But then we also have this wonderful group that you've started. And I know that you told me the pattern was you wait until the first meeting to decide what you're going to study, for the most part. I mean, you have some suggestions, you come with some ideas, but you don't predetermine what it is?
Well, I'm still new at figuring out what's working best. But for the past couple things we've done is I like to break it up into sessions instead of making it ongoing. So that, okay, we had a winter Bible session that was, I think it was 8 weeks long. We had a short summer one that was only 5 weeks long.
Okay.
And we're taking a break right now, and we are going to start back up in the fall and have it, just this is where we need you. We need you for 6 to 8 weeks, once a week, and we're going to meet to discuss whatever they really want to. We have some moms in our group that know the Bible very well, others that are brand new to the Bible. So I leave it up to them, and what I do is I just put a survey out before each one and say, do you want to do a book from the Bible where we take something, like this summer we did Philippians, and we just kind of go through it chapter by chapter and we discuss it. Previously before that we did a book called Risen Motherhood. And so for the fall, once I'm just going to email the moms that I have, and everybody's welcome to join it. My information's in the bulletin if you want to be a part of it. And we will vote when it gets closer to the fall if we want to do something, like the Lord's Prayer book, which is more of a guided study, or if we want to keep it open-ended and just read a book from the Bible together. And I'm going to leave that up to the moms, because I believe that if it's something they want to study, they'll make more of an effort to come out and carve out the time to do it.
And there's some ownership.
Yep.
So when?
So that is still to be determined.
Okay.
We just finished our summer session last week, and I haven't yet to email out when we're going to do it in the fall, because fall sports are still getting underway.
I understand.
One of the biggest leagues is a soccer league in town, and we haven't heard which day of the week our kids are going to have soccer practice. So we have to wait a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. We will be doing something.
And once you'll let us know at church time, then we will be glad to inform anybody who might contact Community Church at Ocean Pines to help them. Yeah,
and I think the important thing is that, I don't want the moms to look at it as something else on their to-do list. I really want them to see it as a time where they can challenge their minds. They can talk about frustrations, and when they leave there, they feel inspired and uplifted.
It's their time.
Right. And, I do think things like that, you do have to make the time, and you have to make it a priority. It's not always easy for me to join the Tuesday Bible study, or to make sure I have the mom's Bible study together. So it does take time. It's not easy, and that's kind of the message that I want to say. It does take effort to do it, but the point is it'll take a little effort, but it's going to fulfill you and make you a better mom, person, and wife because of what you're doing.
So are you telling me it's okay at times to be frazzled?
Yes.
And that, that sometimes you really, for God or for even myself as a pastor and people, you don't have to have it all together.
Right.
You can show up late, you can show up just as you are, and sometimes you have responsibilities to miss. I mean, in my thinking, your kids are the most important thing, and they're more important than your attendance. Even though we look forward to seeing you, then your attendance or participation in anything.
I think usually there's 10 moms that are on the emails that are doing a session, but we usually only have about 4 show up because life happens.
That's right.
And that's okay. And the important part of that, and I think some of the moms in the club would agree, is that even though you're not there for that week, you know you're being thought about, you're being prayed for. So if you missed last week, no big deal, because you know you got this group of women surrounding you and supporting you.
Yes. And that's really important.
Yeah.
It really is very important. So I want to say two things, and I want you to have the last word.
Okay.
So here's the last word I want you to have, and that is to say, if someone was sitting across the table from you, right now it's Ted, but let's just say it was another mom, and she was really struggling, what would you say to encourage her? But let me have a moment of saying something and go from there. I just want to say to you that one of the values I celebrate as a United Methodist is the value it places on women. Women are incredibly important, and moms are incredibly important to the life of the family, to our church, to the community as a whole. And there are so many times when things are done to women that are just so totally wrong. Domestic violence in all of its forms, be it emotionally or spiritually or physically, is always 100% of the time wrong. Secondly, also treating women unfair in the workplace, not paying the same wage or appropriate salaries, thinking that because it's a woman you can do something different, is always, always wrong. Thinking that a woman can't do a job because of her gender, or that there are certain specific places they have to fit into society, is always, always wrong. We are gifted, I think, Emily, in this church, and in my life, my best friend being my sister, with the women of faith and women who come into the life of this church and provide leadership. We have so many gifted, talented, intelligent, wonderful women that my spirituality, the life of this church, is just enhanced. So I just simply say to you, as a United Methodist pastor, women, we value you, and I want you to value yourself and to know that you are important to God, to the life of this church, and you don't have to put up with things that are less than or treat you as less than others. And you know, one of the great persons of my spiritual life was my mom. And we learned my multiplication tables, my division tables, addition, subtraction, but I also learned a lot about my faith from her, and and about service. So if it's hard, or if you're in danger, I as your pastor, we as a church want to help, but always protect and care for yourself, and know that you, in God's sight, are a person of value and importance. So I'm going to turn to my friend Emily for the last word on, if she was speaking to someone who needed encouragement, to a woman that needed encouragement, what would she say? So Emily, the last word is yours.
Well, thank you, Pastor Dale. I appreciate that. I just thank you for having me today. It's always wonderful to speak with you. And as a woman in this church, I do feel very empowered to follow my faith, to guide my family. And I will say, if you want to explore an opportunity within this church, the door will open for you. So I encourage you to do that. If you are feeling frustrated or overwhelmed right now, the first thing I would tell you is that you are so much more capable than what you think. So if you are going through a trying time, I want you to look back when you overcame a different obstacle in your life, and how that made you better and how that made you stronger, and know that even if it doesn't feel like it, God is always by your side. Like, He is in the fire with you. So if you need encouragement, don't feel alone, because you're not alone, and you are a lot more capable of anything you can imagine. And I will also say that the thing that you can do in life is protect your peace. And protecting your peace means being very mindful of what you are saying yes and no to. So what you are scheduling for your family, if you're saying yes to too many things that's making you feel frazzled and drawing you away from your relationship with your children and your family and God. And what I say is, I'm in the middle of doing a lot of things for PTA, and I looked at all my PTA members and I said, I never want PTA to affect your relationship with your children, God, or your husband. And you kind of have to be mindful of that. You need to live your life where you are keeping your family and God priority number one, and I think everything will fall into place after that.
So what you're saying, if I can sort of put it in a nutshell, is set boundaries, and also allow into your life those things which really grow you,
Yep.
and grow your family, and are affirming of what and who you want to be.
100%. Find what affirms you.
Well, Emily is here, and she is representative of the wonderful women of this church. Miss Arlene is over here in the corner playing with the kids,
Thank
and she's
you.
also
She's done
a wonderful
wonderful.
woman. And we have many, our church is blessed by the ladies, the women of this church. And I would just say in closing, thank you for listening. Emily, thank you for being
Yep,
here.
happy to
Your
be here.
kids have been great. And one of your sons is going to get new glasses. I vote he
Yes.
gets blue glasses so he can be like me. We have another young man in the church who has blue glasses, and he's a handsome guy. He really is. He's about the age of your kids. So have a great day. God bless you, Ted. Thank you. And editing, and may God bless you.